So, a very good evening to everyone in the room. I would like to thank you all for your valuable time for joining our webinar on the role of geospatial technologies across diverse career landscapes. I'm sure this webinar will prove to be a rewarding experience for your academic journey and will enable each one of you to better use the ArcGIS personal license. We have Manish Kumar Srivastava with us. Manish is the head of education vertical at Esri India. I would like to invite him to open the webinar. Over to you, Manish, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to conduct this webinar, and this is a kickoff webinar or the traction with you, where we will take you through the the use cases and what all can be done with the RGS software, so that other than the sponsorship, you are also getting licenses. So how well and what you can do with these licenses is what the agenda of the today's session. Uh, at the same time, we would like to imbibe one thing that you all 10 of you, 6 are there as an attendee. There are other people who will be given the recording of the same webinar. That you will be the flag bearer of RGS or the licenses for your college or the institute where you are. So that whenever there is an RGS thing, you should get into it, or GIS thing rather, and then you should guide people. Or if you are facing any kind of problem, or your colleagues or your professor is facing any kind of problem, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to support you in terms of technical, in terms of any other thing. And this is the purpose of this webinar. I am Manish Srivastava, and I head the education vertical for Esri India. And I keep talking to all the institutes in India, education institutes, and we also guide professors and students in terms of the future roadmap of GIS and how you can build your career. You meet the students passing out, bright students. So this is the purpose. You can always reach out to me. My email ID and phone number will be posted on the chat. You can note it down, and then I can divert you to the right person. Again, I'm saying not only you, any of your fellow students or the staff members or the professors, please feel free. We'll be happy to help you in whatever way we can. And we really want all 6 of you, or all 10 of you rather, to use these licenses, learn more, explore it, and take our help, and then be a flag bearer for the institute where you are, so that it will give you a lot of boost in terms of your confidence. Plus, you will be looked up by the others as a GIS expert. Yeah, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Manish, sir, for your note. Like he mentioned, his contact details will be shared to you over email. And in case you have any questions, you can reach out to him, any queries. Um, I would now like to call Malesh and Esther from our team to take you through the presentation.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Manish, sir, for the wonderful welcoming note. Before I start my presentation, I would like to congratulate all the winners. Now you are owning one of the esteemed product, rather say the digitalized form of GIS. Well, many of you might already know that we are a global leader in enterprise geospatial systems, especially with GIS, geographic information systems. We have multiple users across wide variety of domains. Whether it could be a state, national government, a defense, NGOs, utility sector, you just name it. Our RGS or our Esri products are used across the globe in many sectors. Coming to India, we Esri India got established in 1996, headquartered at Noida, and having multiple strategic locations across Pan India, like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, and many other places to cater all our customers. And here, our customers are both from government, non-government, and commercial environments. And before I get into the technicalities of today's presentation, I would wish to give you a snapshot of who are our users across the globe, apart from uh, defense and uh, national and state government organizations. And these are the organizations where GIS is paying a pivotal role, maybe in their planning, or in their execution, or in their internal works, or to uh, plan their construction activities, or addressing any emergency response systems, disaster management, and and in all these sectors, ArcGIS is very pivotally used. Coming to precisely for India, ArcGIS is used across various mapping agencies like GSI, NATMO, Survey of India. Uh, Especially, the product is also used in mission mode programs like Amrut Smart Cities. Most of the smart cities which were released in the phase one are been using ArcGIS to deploy various environments. Apart from that, in forest, educational research, as we were discussing in disaster management, and in urban development initiatives, along with the defense and homeland securities, the RGS products are used. So, coming to the product part, before we entering into the product, just a small snapshot on what GIS is and what is our geographic approach. GIS is typically a framework which would provide you to measure your data, measure and collect your data sets, visualize them, plot it, paint it on a map, so that you can do various analysis for predictions and various modeling for understanding your data, so that you can create a you can convert your data into information, and this information can be utilized in decision making system, further kept that as into action. Once we bring all that into action, there would be some pros and some concerns. Hence, we again go back, collecting again the data sets, and this is a complete cycle where we are collecting, analyzing, and disseminating the data. Coming to ArcGIS, ArcGIS manages all aspects of your data sets in form of products, models, applications, helping and assisting organizations and people to have an integrated user experience. The reason why ArcGIS is very commonly used across the globe is because it can integrate any kind of data sets. The data sets can be structured data sets or unstructured data sets. It can be from Internet of Things or IoTs, big data, 3D models, images, imageries, uh, the unserials of outputs of the imageries. All these data sets can be ingested into the ArcGIS platform, and we can apply various kinds of tools. Either it can be spatial analyze tools or image analysis tools, and there are multiple tools which we would be discussing in this session. ArcGIS, we cater ArcGIS as desktop, web, and mobile applications. I would request our Esther to take it forward from this place.
Yeah, so thank you for handing it over to me, Malaysia. So now I'll just be going through all the product stack and giving you an overview of all the different products that you can use for your applications, so that we can come to really good insights out of it. So first of all, this is a standalone desktop application where you have really good improvements and new releases that are happening every time. We'll be working with voxel layers and rendering really different information spatially. So all this can be used, and this will be the fundamental desktop system where you perform your analysis for further rendering, right? So I'll be showing you that interface, and we'll be going through the tools that we'll be using subsequently in the later part of the series. And so there are different extensions that enable what you have to work with. So it is not just it's not just it's not limited to a certain set of capabilities. You have a specific functionality that is enabled by every single extension. So you have 3D analyst and spatial analyst for a lot of different hydrological modeling, and then you can get insights out of your DEM data, and then contours, all these different analysis that can be done with these extensions. And we'll be exploring the possibilities of certain tools and applications that can be developed out of it. For example, let's look at the network analyst, right? So it's for routing, basic routing that you can think about, or a drive time service area analysis. What is the closest approach to get into a facility So all these different ways in which you can use extensions will be enabled, and you'll be looking into that. And for example, let's look at the geostatistical analysis as well. So if you have a little bit of information for a certain model, then you can fill in the gaps. There are certain things that you might not know about the rest of the data. So you can fill in the gaps using the geostatistical analyst. So those sort of extensions with powerful workflows are also enabled within the software. And how can you go about using them is up for grabs. And then enterprise, this is not something that might not really be relevant at this stage, but just know that this is a complete infrastructure that can be deployed in your in-house requirement, and you can publish and work with your data and collaborate within the entire infrastructure within your own system. And what you really need to understand is the capabilities of ArcGIS Online, because we have so many different things that are being empowered and so many different updates that are coming out and about. So you have smart mapping, which is enabled, which we'll be exploring, and just different ways and styles in which you can work with your map data, because it's not just the data that you have. You've got to do something with it. You've got to map it and have some sort of analysis that you're doing out of it. So that we'll be exploring as well. And so smart mapping, so what did I mean by that, right? The way you go about doing it. So if you view this, the examples that I have clustered here, you have dynamic cluster. For example, if you have a lot of different locations, you have really dense data, a lot of locations at a certain area, then you can have a cluster of the data set up. So this is dynamic clustering. At each zoom level, or depending on the scale extent that you change, you will have dynamic clusters that are available over there. And similarly, you have dot density operations, you have really good visualization options. All these are already available, and you can just play with these tools and see how you can mingle and work with both 2D and 3D. And so we have our updated map viewer for this use, and you can go and explore that as well. And what do we mean by the interoperability of the data? We can work with so many different types of data, right? So it's not just limited to 2D. We have 3D, and it's also upgraded to 4D as well. We have a time dimension that is integrated with the data. So when it comes to 3D, we talk about our information models. We have our BIM, so architecture background people. From there also you can integrate these building information models, and then you can work with LiDAR data, and you can have these building meshes that are constructed from point clouds, and then voxel, which is a 4D representation. You have the time space-time cube series as well, which is generated from this. So I'm just trying to tell you that there are endless possibilities with the data that you have to work with and the analytics that you can make out of it. So I'm just giving you a brief gist of all the products and what you will be having, so that when you have them, right, when you really have this hands-on, you will have so many different things that you're doing with it. And I'll be showing you how these can be used in your day-to-day applications as well. So story maps is another template where you have all these different applications that are put together, and you have a complete slide visualization. So you can scroll through the entire thing, and all of it is just built using no line of code. You can just build it with a drag and drop functionality. And sites is another application where you put different use cases or different ways in which you're visualizing your data, something that you want to work with, and you put all of this in your common portfolio, right? You can create a portfolio on the go using this sort of application. And then we have custom web app builders, and you can see examples when I show you how it exactly goes about. So web app builders with different functionalities and widgets, and then you have an experience that brings all of these different functionalities together. And then if you want to customize it further with a little bit of code, that is also possible and up for grabs using App Studio. And then field mobile applications. So all of this data collection, when you think about it, how does it happen, right? So you can also record these points. You can navigate to the point that you're working with. If you want someone to go to the field and check the data that has been happening, the inspection and maintenance of your data. So all this collection and management of your data can also be leveraged. And you have these navigation tools in order to help you track the locations and get to the location, and then carry out all other different aspects of field work. And these are mobile applications which are quickly integrated with dashboards. Okay, so these are really good applications where you can feed in your data, okay, and you can work with the data, and you can see all of these happening in a real-time basis, and you can filter and update, and you can have these interactive filters that work accordingly, and you can manipulate, and you can just see what is happening in the data and visualize the trends that are happening. So all of this, if you want, if you wish, you can also extend and have these different capabilities where you can work, and you might have certain custom operations. All of these are available and already possible using the web existing widgets. But if you further want to connect and use them for a different use case, then you can always make use of a developer platform, and that is also available. So I just want you to understand, right, going off the bat, when you start working with the data, what exactly will you be doing with it? So for that, you need to fetch data. How will you be going about using these data? So we have a rich content, which includes everything that is ready to use. We have a variety of base maps and services and tile map image layers, which have everything from elevation, environment, use cases, base maps, and all these different services that can be consumed, and they have really good resolution as well. So you can use them for your different activities. You can interpose your data on them and start working with them automatically. So we have a living atlas, and you can narrow down your search based on the data that you're looking for and start working with it. And so we have different advancements. It's not just limited to what we've been looking at before. We have different ways in which we're going about and going and working with the data. So it's not just related to imagery and 3D analysis. So there is so much more that is awaiting for you. So what do you do with it? Like we have geo AI capabilities with our image analyst and spatial analyst. So all those different capabilities also you'll be exploring and seeing. And how do you bring about analytics out of it? How do you make the data correlate and then have sense? So all these different functionalities that are just emerging out of the box, and we'll be exploring them as well. And so just a brief gist of how machine learning, deep learning, and AI has to do with what we have to address right now. So this might seem a little out of the box, but just know that we have models that are already trained, and you can use these models in order to come and extract assets from the imagery that you're working with. So these are different use cases that I just wanted to show you. So you'll be seeing in detail how that would be progressing as we go about. So as you can see that we have change detection analysis that can be happening, and then we have a pixel classification and then 3D object classification. So how is this process enabled? For that, I'm just giving you a workflow of how that happens. Okay. So first, you will have the data that you'll be preparing. Okay. And then you'll be training the model. You'll be feeding the model on a step-by-step basis. Okay. And once the model is trained with image chips that are being generated, once the classes have been labeled and the model has been fed with them, you can use the model in order to extract a lot of other assets from the imagery. So right now, this might seem a little bit of a far-fetched capability, but if I show you and I show you these examples of how it will work, that will make a really good, meaningful insight. So this is basically just the gist of it. And now moving to how this can be really used in your domain-specific applications. Okay, so let's just go into domains and see how this would come about and how this would really help you. So starting off, I just want to discuss about environment sciences and how this GIS could really help you with that. Okay, so the main problem that we have when it comes to the environment is how the climate changes. It is very unpredictable in nature. So you have different models and different inputs that you need to feed into the system in order to come up with really good insights, right? So you have huge data that you need to process, and then you've got to understand, because of this processing, what exactly is the risk that is being caused in the environment as a result. So because of that, we have applications addressing this very need, and I can show you examples right off the bat. And just forestry as well, how different ways you can manage and have plantation management, and then forest and green cover change management. And then you've got to monitor the conflicts that happen between wildlife, and then fire analysis, different ways in which you can visualize and work with the data in order to understand and mitigate the effects of climate. And also just go for urban growth when it comes to forests and vegetation and just everything in general. So different ways in which you can see your applications. I've jotted down a few examples right here. And now let's just see how this would really look if I were to bring it out in a portal. So these are different examples that I have right now. And again, we'll be seeing them in detail. So for your reference, I'll just be shifting the tab right now. Okay, so we'll just be going through it one by one, and we'll just see how it can all come to the picture. So I hope my screen is still visible. I'll just shift. Okay. So starting off, so we have, let's just imagine, okay, we have our wheat data. Okay, so right now what I've considered is just a crop data that is being gathered. Okay, so this and the environment around it, surrounding it, how exactly will be the increments. So this is the data that I got. Okay, and then based on this, I wanted to aggregate it with my districts. So I'm just interposing my district boundaries as well on top of it. Okay, and then I want to see where the risk aggregation, because of the, okay, just a second, just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. Just zoom out. Yeah. Yes. So coming to this, I'll just reload my map once because there is a loading issue. And in the meantime, I'll just show you another example first. Okay, so in our Bay of Bengal, right? So these were the current levels that were monitored. And what we did was we were interposing that with subsequent layers. So because of the inundation, what exactly was the risk that it posed? So in this current level, you can see, right? And then when you add other further analytics on top of it, because of the 1 meter, what exactly is the coverage? And then because of further analytics, because of further extent that it stands, because of other inputs that are factoring inside this, because of the inundation that will be caused, what exactly will be the impact, cost, and the climate analytics that you can get out of it. So because of this flooding and this modeling, what will be the region covered, what is the region possible to change, and because of the flood risk, what does it pose to that particular region? So this sort of climatic analysis can also be done with our map viewer. This is just a simple interface where you can see everything is put together and you can interact with it. And then moving on to the next use case, I just wanted to show you how livestock can be affected because of the climate. And here, if you can see, I've taken two different maps from 2020 and 2050. So I just wanted to make an analysis of how this would change and how this would affect the livestock because of changing factors that we have, right? And so these different factors were fed into the suitability modeler. So we have different weather anomalies that are happening because of this, and we're taking the difference and projecting future climate parameters because of this change. And so if you notice the change, right, the factors that I took into consideration were percentage of the land which is under pasture, okay, and then the percentage of the land which is irrigated, and the distance away from this facility. Let me just show you the map. Okay, so it is, yes. So once all these different parameters are fed in, just a second. Yeah, okay. So sorry for the, I think it's just a bandwidth issue. I'll just show you the model. Yeah. Yes. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Okay. So we take in different parameters for the change in suitability. Okay. We take in different parameters like how far is the land from vets? What is the accessibility to hospitals for these livestock? And then we take temperature variation into control. So all this, and how does it affect our livestock across this region? So this is an example of a dashboard where you can see, okay, district by district basis. For example, if I were to zoom into a certain district, okay, if I were to go for Coimbatore alone, I would see what exactly is the current suitability level, and I would also understand what is the future suitability which has been mapped out of it. So between two different years, okay, what has been the change will be recognized as a result out of it. Okay, so this is a way you can work with your data. And then another way I want you to understand and see how that would work, right? So we have a model that is already set up for you. Okay, so these are different layers that I want you to see. Okay, so this is extreme temperature vulnerability analysis where different factors are fed into the model. And then you see, okay, from this, you understand the insight, which is because of extreme temperatures, what exactly will be the affectation on the land. Okay, so here you have extreme temperatures, rising temperatures, and we get this data from our models. Okay, and then we also superimpose this with our impervious surface and then with our population density as well. Why do I tell you all this? It's because we have a suitability modeler which is already designed for your use. Okay, you feed in the parameters. Okay, let's see. I'm going to feed in certain characteristics for this. Okay, and once I have all this, I'll just run my model. Okay, and then from this, I can understand what is the vulnerability of the region, what exactly, because of changing factors, because of the changing temperature and rising heat, what exactly it stands to really be affected by this. And we can make risk assessment out of this and generate analytics. So if I were to just go for a certain layer, okay, if I were to draw a polygon here, I would understand where it's been affected the most and where I need to pay attention to in order to get insights out of it. So if you can see here, right, in this region, we see that the effect due to temperature has been extremely phenomenal, right? And here we need to focus and see what needs to be changed, what needs to be the input in order to help out the population that is suffering in that area. So this is another way in which you can monitor and use your data. And then this is another global application that we have in order to just work with different places. Okay, so here you can easily access and work with this data. Okay, so for an Indian context, I just wanted to show you, if you come to a certain region, let's say you wanted to see what are the parameters in Chennai. Okay, so here, if you were to just understand and get insights out of it, right? You have the precipitation, the runoff, the evapotranspiration, the soil moisture, and all these different parameters that give you insights as to how you can work with the data. So these applications can easily be built using our web applications. So these different insights and what exactly is the prevalent conditions in that area. You can see how the water has been changing over time, and different parameters and what that will do and what impact that will have in the land. So this data can be used and consumed by your applications. And then another way I wanted to show you to work with our data. So this is an experience application. Okay, so this again is just a built application with nothing that is required from code. We wanted to monitor the rainfall statistics over a period of time. So here we just want to see how that would impact the environment as well. So you can filter that on the basis of years, and you can get really meaningful insights out of it. And so here I just want to talk about an application that you have in your disposal, which is Insights. Okay, so here you have all these custom built charts that are already there. Let me just show you how that would work. So all these different cards are configured for your ready use. Okay, so you have different graphics and different charts that you get to work with. And this is a really easy to use application where all these cards are just drag and drop. Okay, you have different statistics and modeling that you can make out of these existing applications. So you have our box plot and scatter plot and different bar graphs and analysis. And the thing about this is, if you select it for a particular area, you will notice that everything else gets dynamically changed as well. So if I'm just going for a region in Kerala, then I'll see that metric populated over all those different regions, all those different seasons. So I can see what happened during the season, and I can see what happened during each and every single district and state across for the different rainfall parameters over that season. So this sort of application can also be built, and again, it's a easy to use application which with cards that are there for your disposal. And then moving further, I wanted to just go through other use cases that we have. Okay, so coming back to my presentation, I'll just show you for another domain how we go about doing it. I'll lead you through the domains, and then we'll see corresponding applications and how you can stand to benefit out of it. So when it comes to agriculture, we really need to think about the planning part, the data collection part, and how we go about using all of this. So for this, we have a complete workflow where we start data collection from the field, and we consume that in our web applications as well. So this sort of modeling can be possible. And then these are really just general examples of how that would go about looking. So we have suitability analysis, and then organic agriculture that is being demonstrated, and then we have carbon modeling and different ways in which you can work with your data. They're just ideas for your reference. And then, so I'll just show you a few examples of how that would look. So here, this is just a site application that I was telling you about earlier. So you have a central hub where you can put forth all your different applications in a common portal, and then you can just use this for your analytics. Okay, so here we brought together different use cases, a variety of different use cases in order to empower this. And I'll just load and show you through each and every single application how you can work with your data and how that would really be beneficial to you. So just give me a second because the map takes a little bit of time to load. Yes. So here we have our first use case, which is our biodiversity dashboard. We brought in the variability among all the plants and microorganisms that are used for our agriculture purposes. And so how that would look like and how that would map out is one thing that I really wanted to show and demonstrate to you. So yeah. And this is a site where you'll be putting forth all these applications together. So this is, again, this does not require code. I'll just show you how that would work. I'll lead you through the entire hub site first and show you how the interface is, right? So all of these applications are stacked one below the other, and you can change the way it looks as well. All this is customizable by you. Okay, all of this does not require any sort of processing further. Okay, you can just ingest your applications directly from the hub site. Okay, so here we have a dashboard which is ingested. So we select a certain district. Okay, I just want to make a comparison between a couple of districts. Okay, so I just want to see Ballari, how it is faring. and you can see that it dynamically just gets populated, and you can see what metrics are gotten out of it. So these sort of dashboards can be developed by you as well, is the point that I'm trying to make. So here you can see what districts and what are involved in paddy collection and growth. So like that, we have another example over here. So we want to understand the agricultural suitability and analytics out of it. So for crop suitabilities. So here we have different ways in which we are bringing about the data. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how that would work. So here for agriculture, we have so many different parameters that we need to keep in mind, right? So we are running a suitability modeler. Okay, we select a few layers that we feel are important, right? Like the distance to water is important, carbon biomass, all these elevation, all these different parameters which are important. Okay, and then we design a model, and then we show the repercussions of it. So if I were to just give okay, like yes, and then 14. Okay, so if I were to do something like this and then run the model, I would get an understanding of where it is suitable, and because of all these different parameters, what exactly is the analysis and understanding that I get out of it. So this sort of understanding is also possible. So you can see that I'll just generate a chart now. You can see that because of these different factors, what has been the effect and what exactly will be the suitability of this region. So this region, as you can see, it is not that suited for crop production, and because of the underlying factors behind it, because of the biomass and the other repercussions of that model. So this is for agriculture. And I just want to show you how you can also perform other analytics for it. So for example, we have agricultural area comparative analysis. We can go for district basis, and we can understand the crop that has been sown. We can see the net area that has been sown, the cultivable wasteland. We can see it on a district basis, and we can get further understanding from it. We have these stacked up charts available for our use, and we can just see how all of this interactively mingles with everything. And here we can compare livestock to see different ways in which this has been affecting the district. For example, we can take two districts into consideration and see what has been the metrics, what has been the growth over the years, and the metrics as in how much livestock is there between 2012 to 2017. And so like this, we have endless use cases where you can just bring in for even precision farming and real-time monitoring. The data that we got from drones as well is kind of incorporated into this. So for this region, let's say Bidar, right? So for that as well, we can see and understand what has been the metric out of it. Okay, so this sort of understanding of the nutrients, the soil nutrients, the potassium, the phosphorus, all of that which is integrated in the soil types, all this can be brought into the picture. So it's a complete hub site. I just want to convey that point, right? So you have your data, you've got a lot of analytics out of it, and you can completely develop and use this sort of website in barely the space of an hour or so, because all of this is just a drag and drop functionality. So if I were to assess and understand the crop damage assessment, this is another use case where we were thinking about what exactly is the damage that has been caused due to the crops. And this is an example of a mobile application that I wanted to tell you about, right? So you fill this from the field, okay? You get the points that are recorded, right? And then once you update this same feature layer which is being used across your applications will be populated. So this sort of analysis as well can be done. So this is another way in which you can assess the damage that has been caused in your crops. And I've just opened this in another website, and you can see, right? So this sort of feeding in of data, this is just a survey application where you can feed in your data, and then you can submit it, and you'll get that in the map. You'll get that directly in the map for your viewing and your understanding of the data and how to work with it. And this is a web application where we were collecting all these field inputs, and then we could understand what is the change, like what is the input, what is the resource that we have, right? What is the stack of crops that we have? All that could be understood from this. So we have charts that are dynamic in nature, and all these widgets are there for your use as well. So this is another application where you could bring about that. And now coming to a really central application, a really specific use case that you could work with. I wanted to discuss about how network analysis could be used as well. Okay, so that is an extension that you have as part of the software. So that can be used as well. So how will that go about causing change and helping you go about things. So when you think about network analysis, you think about a route which is being generated from one point to another, right? So here we have a route network. When it comes to the agricultural database, we wanted to understand the best route from a warehouse to a fair price station. So this sort of routing and analysis from your destination to your origin or vice versa can be done using the network analysis tools that we had. So this sort of understanding can also be done. So the total drive time that it took for this area, right, from this area right down to the stations that are involved in it, this sort of short route or the fastest route that is required, the least cost path, all these sort of different analytics can be done with the network analysis tool set, which is there in ArcGIS. So this, you can see the routing information as well, which is given for each and every single turn. So you can see for this, if we were to zoom into it, and we could see the location and we get the directions out of it. So this sort of understanding can be done. And furthermore, okay, so going on to the next part and seeing how that would connect with another phase. So this was another phase that we wanted to map. So we want to see the shortest route between the warehouse and the linked fair price shops, and we were able to get this sort of understanding. Furthermore, okay, this is not just limited to this use case. We want to see the origin destination links, right? We just want to see how much of the service area can be generated from a certain warehouse. So these are different warehouses in the data. If you notice, okay, these are different warehouses, okay? And so I'm going with one warehouse in particular, which is Red Hills region, okay? And I want to understand from this warehouse, what are the benefits, what are the FPS stations that are getting supplied to. So this sort of understanding, right? Only for this depot, what are the shops that are getting serviced? So this sort of understanding can be done as well. So I get my warehouse associated with it, and I can also see the number of stations it's being filtered for. And if I were to change to some other district, some other opening, some other outlet, then I'll be able to see that as well. So this is basically a service area drive time analysis as to if you can see all these layers and if you can see the map in order to get a better clue out of it. Okay, so these are the drive time, the time that it takes for you to get access to these warehouses, and what are the service areas that get the most benefit because of the proximity due to these locations. So this sort of network analysis can also be done using the tools that we have. So this is also really useful for how you can go about it. And if I were to select nothing, then you would see how all these different warehouses are scattered, and you can see in this region, right, that this would be the best location for this shop, which is really far away. So these metrics and this sort of understanding can also be mapped from your data. That is what I wanted to really convey as well. And then moving forward, I would also go for another use case, right? I just want to show you other ways in which this can be beneficial to your understanding of the data. So forest-based applications, this is just another domain that would be of interest to you. So how you can bring everything into a common portal and work with it. Okay, so these are all applications that have been ingested and just complete functionality which is in your hands to use and work with. And to start with, how would that work? So this is a simple use case where we have our data, which is, if you can see, right, I have our parcels which are clustered on top. Okay, so I'll just turn off the areas which are required for my use. Okay, so we have both the canopy density and the carbon sequestration that we were able to generate for the urban land. So I'll just show you how that would look like. Okay, so first we have this is our study area that we took into consideration, and then we have our neighborhoods. And from this, we really want to understand what has been the result. Okay, what has been the result, and because of these buildings that are being scattered, what has been the carbon sequestration and the canopy density. Okay, so once this is understood, we can have a swiping sort of analysis to understand where, because of more concentration of urban area, the carbon sequestration is also, commensurate with that. So I'll show you how that would work. Just give me a second while this loads. Okay, so here, if I were to map my layer, okay, so the top layer that I have is my canopy density. I'll just turn off the layers which are associated with it. Okay, and then this alone. Okay, and then I have this understanding. Okay, so you can see that in areas where there is greater cover of trees, you understand that there is better sequestration which is happening as well. So if you go to a certain area which is quite densely populated, you see that it's kind of decreasing, right? You see that the sequestration which is happening is not enabled. So this sort of analytics, this swipe layer analysis can also be done with the application. And then going forward, I will just show you a few more ways in which you can use the data. So this was something that we wanted to show for, like hotspots of fire detection. I'll just show you how that would work. Just give me a second while the map loads. Yes. So here we have modest data that is being collected, and we can see and monitor where exactly the hotspots of fire is being generated. So this sort of hotspot analysis can also be done with our dashboards, and you can see where, due to VIRS data as well. So we took two different sets of data, and we saw where the fire activity was really prone to change. And for a certain region, we wanted to also show you how that would work. So like, let me consider the Maharashtra forest layers. Okay, so from 2014 to 2018, we had heavy fires that were happening across. So we just want to understand and visualize that in the map. I'll cancel this. So as you can see, okay, right from 2014 to 2017, you just need to understand, and you can have this timeline sort of analysis as well, which is happening readily on the web map. So this sort of understanding can also be had from forest severity and analysis. So this sort of understanding can also be done with your data. So similarly, I would just be activating areas that were affected by it. So if I were to just go for the previous time step, and then I could see where the data has been accruing over the years. And now I really want to focus on another application and another capability that is possible. So for that, I'll be showing you through our deep learning models, and just showing you through how this can be used. So when it comes to forest based applications and what we were trying to go for, and how that would really be beneficial and useful. So I'll just show you how that would work. So this is our ArcGIS Pro desktop application, and how would you go about using that? And so if I were to open my geoprocessing tools, okay, so I'll just go to my geoprocessing tools, okay. And here in these toolboxes, you see all the extensions that I was talking to you about, right? You have the 3D analysis tools, you have different tools that you're working with, you have Geo AI tools, you have image analysis tools. So these tools are something that I wanted you to explore as well, and you can see how we got benefits out of this. So the network analysis that I was talking about, right? You have these analysis that is being made in order to do it. So first of all, in order to deal with the data and how you'll be processing it, so we have image analysis tools, and here you can see these deep learning tool set. Okay, so using this, okay, all you have to do is just run these functions. You just have to feed in your data, classify, you'll be labeling certain classes, and then using those classes you will be training the model repeatedly. And once the model is trained, okay, let's say you have 20 samples that are being trained, using that model you'll get insights and better insights out of it, and then the entire stretch of land you'll be capturing assets. So for this use case, let me just show you how that would work. Okay, so I'm leading you through this this demonstration where I can show you the study area that we worked with and what we extracted from it as an analysis. Okay, so initially, okay, to get in the picture right away, this was our study area. This was Himachal Pradesh forest, and here we wanted to get a better understanding from which was not possible using satellite imagery, right? Because you have very low resolution imagery when it comes to satellite, and so this was way back imagery that we had for 2 sets of years. Okay, you can see that it's not really clear and helps you get an understanding from it. So for that, we were able to get hold of our drone imagery. Okay, and for this study area, if you notice, okay, if I were just to expand it, you'll see that there are so many different trees that we want to capture, and also these certain bunds, these certain features that we had to train the model for as well. So I'm trying to tell you, the picture that I'm trying to paint for you is that we can extract these assets using our training tools. So we went for object detection, okay, and the way we went about doing this is we generated the DSM and the DTM, and then we were able to compute the height as well from the metrics that we got. So how do we do this? So once we ran the model, okay, the model that I just showed you, you just run in the parameters, you feed in the model, you train the model, and you get this sort of insight. Completely for an entire stretch of land, you get all the trees that were present in that land. And this process was accomplished in less than 30 minutes, which would take a lot of time, right? You have to manually digitize and take the entire study region into control. That would take a phenomenal amount of time. So we went with this model, and then we were able to extract 25,000 trees in less than 30 minutes. So this sort of extraction is also possible. And this is, again, a model that is already available for use. I'll be leading you through it and how that would work. Okay, and so we were able to also extract the heights. Once we used fit in these parameters, we were able to extract that from our digital terrain model and our surface models. Okay, and then once we got these sort of understanding, also the small features that I told you about, right? These small features which are there in order to make sure that the water retention structures are kept and it does not overflow. So this was also done. This sort of deep learning model was also built, and because of this the model which was trained to do it, we were able to get these assets from this sort of area, and we were able to get this count in barely less than 5 minutes, as you can notice. And once you get all these insights, right, you need something to do with it. You just can't extract these objects, you need a visualization for it. So which is why we got our dashboard, and you can notice, right, in certain areas, I'll just show you how that would work. So we see in this area, in this region, how many buns are there, what are the tallest trees. This sort of understanding of the area can also be done, the trees which are greater than 1 meter. So all this sort of understanding could come after we performed our model and analysis. Okay, so and then furthermore there was another way in which we have to categorize it according to the activities that were being conducted, and this is where your field applications will come in as well. I'll just show you these different applications. So you can see that it was categorized by the family and the genus and the species of the trees as well. So right from data extraction to the the communication of the data, to visualization of data and understanding and making analysis from the data. So this sort of understanding can also come from your from the way that you design your applications and go for it. So this area, if you notice, is what we took into consideration, and you can see that there were certain field operations that we performed. So this, using your field application that I was telling you about, right, the mobile application, a person will go there, get these metrics and understand and report accordingly. So this field operation where a person goes and is deployed into the field and conducts the inspection can also be monitored in a single interface in your dashboard. So this sort of understanding can also be brought about. Okay, so this is what I have in mind for this particular thing. Okay, and then let's talk about other different areas in which it could be features. So let's see also the possibilities of 3D and BIM and GIS and how that could go about. So we'll see applications pertaining to that shortly, and just have an overview of how these applications would look like. Okay, so you would be integrating different models using your GIS and going about performing these really good operations. And this is just a small demonstration as to how that would work. So here we have our project that we designed, right? So this building that we consumed from the application, so this is really easily ingestible by our software. Okay, so you bring in the Revit model from an external source. We have the Autodesk connection for it, and once you bring that in, you'll be able to investigate the building and you'll be able to understand and bring these models into picture. So this software is also possible. This sort of urban planning model is also possible within the premises of ArcGIS. Okay, you can see how every single feature is being looked into, and the pertaining attributes and every single feature which has to be inspected or maintained and gather detail for. You have unstructured data like the PDFs that you're bringing in for reference. So all this sort of analytics and understanding can also be brought in into your dashboard. Okay, so this sort of modeling can also be done. And to go further into that, to understand how that would work, okay, let's go into that. So this is just a model that we have in order to show you how BIM, which is Building Information Model, and GIS can come together really in really powerful ways. I'll make sure that all these applications are loaded so that we can see it in a better view. Okay, so I think because of the bandwidth, it just okay. So I'll just show you across these applications. We'll be exploring each of them in detail. Okay, not to worry about that. Yes, I'll just lead you through all these applications so you can have a better understanding of what that entails and what that would do for your understanding. Okay, so to start off, right off the bat, okay, so we have a study area, which is, I'll just zoom into this area. So just give me a second while it renders, because it can take quite some time to render and see on the screen. In the meantime, okay, so my model here is loaded. So this was just a sample model that we got from, as you can see, right, from the underlying region, you can see that this was generated from our drones. Okay, so we quickly created a mesh, a 3D mesh from all these different images that we put together. Okay, and once we got this building, okay, so we ingested this in our application. So this sort of modeling was done in our urban application. So once we have this, we have different ways in which we are visualizing the data. So during daylight, how exactly the effect would be on the building, right? So that is also a possibility. You can see it animate lifetime, and you can just see how it happens quickly. And then due to weather conditions, you can see what will happen. And then due to the shadow, what will be the change? Due to the shadow effect, what is the change? That sort of animation and modeling can be done with the software. And then you have the line of sight, which is nothing but if I have to create a new analysis, I would just, okay, so I will clear the analysis, and I will just go to my default state, clear the effect for everything else, and show you how that would work. So yeah, so because of this analysis, you will see what exactly is the angle of inclination that they'll be able to see. Okay, so if a person were to stand from this floor in the building, what would the coverage be? What would the coverage and understanding of their senses be? So this sort of understanding is easily possible as well using the line of sight tool. And then I'll just close this as well, clear analysis, and then I'll just go for new slice, which is sometimes in our buildings we need to understand which floor we need to see assets and monitor that as well. So this sort of understanding can also be brought using our widgets which are possible. So this sort of a basic just a basic understanding of how that would work with your urban models. There are other examples that I want you to be exposed to and see how that would work. So I'll just load this. Okay, so just a second. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So if you notice in the very first shot, what we have is our buildings all scattered across for this region. So we have different buildings across this region. And then we were able to put in a population data, right? We were able to superimpose a 3D population data for those buildings. And then we want to understand the building model with it. And so we can see that the buildings within 800 meters of these stations were understood. So this sort of understanding can also be brought into the picture. Okay. And once this is done, we were creating a 3D scene of the entire territory. We wanted to see all the buildings and just map all these models with it. So as you can see, all these different BIM models that we brought in using our urban planner and designer, we were able to bring into the software, right? So this sort of 3D planning and development can also be brought into the picture using ArcGIS. And so we have new urban development that we want to focus on this particular site of land. And so we have our models that are being distributed here. And then we want to understand a Revit model as well. Okay, so this can be consumed from an external application and brought into the software. So this sort of understanding can also be had using BIM and GIS integration. And then we also have a Revit model of the station below ground. So this also can be brought into the map, and you can see that this is below surface level, and you can bring this as well into the picture. And then we also have a different way in which we are seeing the tunnels that are underlying. And so all these different ways in which you can work with BIM data and use that for your urban planning or modeling for an entire city based operation or for a limited area, all that can be done using GIS in order to do planning operations as well. And this is just a top view of how that would be distributed. And furthermore, just different views and angles in which you can view your data and do the planning for your entire model. So it's not just relegated to buildings, it's to do with other features across the buildings as well, and have an understanding of that. So to move further and see how that would work for another use case, so we can also bring this information into modeling your campuses. You can work with your campuses and see how that sort of modeling can be done as well. So this is just a before after picture that I want to show you. So this was just a 2D slate, okay, a 2D slate of how that campus looked before. And then after 3D modeling as well that we brought in, and we kind of had our analysis with our buildings that we're putting. This sort of management can also be done. So if I were to search for a certain area, let's say a hospital, that result would be fed in as well, and I can see that and get an understanding from that sort of insight. So we can explore the building and see how that would work as well. And so these are other examples that I would really like to show you. But this is another use case where we had our mining data that was gotten from our imagery, and we were able to just delineate the stockpiles, right? We were able to understand the landfill, the stockpiles that were generated upon mining excavation, and we were able to get that sort of insight from the data as well. And so this is another demonstration that I just want you to go through for just how it goes into the developmental planning of a certain city. Okay, so you see that right from the large scale view of it to how that would look into this. You have this complete view of the entire city. You have the sort of modeling that you can do with ArcGIS, and how that will look when you go into each and every single model, and you can plan buildings accordingly. You can see the concentration of buildings, and you can plan this power lines or the networks. And for example, if you were to have a river along that different city model, then you can have that as well into the picture. And you have different structures and rural areas. So all this sort of understanding and analysis can be done using ArcGIS and the applications that are associated with it. So this is Urban Suite that I wanted to explore with you. Okay, so we'll be seeing that as well, and how that could work. So you can see the rendering and okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll just go for a few other examples, and then we'll have a complete picture of how that would really work, factor into the picture. Okay, so now I'll just so now I'll just show you how this sort of 3D mesh cloud can also be generated with your models. And this sort of this is also very easy to generate. We have our applications in order to generate this sort of urban modeling. And if you were to view this in an application, how would that look like? I'll just show you that as well. So just quickly show you this. So this ArcGIS Urban Suite that we have for your understanding, and you would be able to see all these different applications. So these different applications that you might develop. Okay, so these different ways in which we are using our models. Okay, and building a digital twin, which is exactly like a complete picture, a representation of the real world scenario in a model. So that can also be seen. Okay, so if you see, apologies about that. I'll just quickly show you that before we kind of near the close, and we see what else can be done. So this sort of complete urban planning and understanding for a smart city was what we attempted, and we got for Varanasi. So this sort of understanding can be done for the applications, density building and
I think there's some connectivity issue at Esther at Malaysia that we were towards the end of the webinar only. We'll wait just for a minute to check if they're back online. In case you guys have any questions, you can put that up in chat. We already have a question from Raghavendra. We will be sharing the deck and the link of the story maps. The entire recording of the webinar will also be shared with you guys over email.